Let's welcome in our morning guest. T.S. Harihar is now joining us. S.P. Prasad is with us and Ruchit Jain is also with us. Good morning, gentlemen. S.P., let's start with you. What are the picks?
I stick to my picks, Pankaj. Good morning to you and to everybody on the channel and my fellow panelists. I stick to my stocks, the tried and tested, largely SBI, HDFC and HPCL. But more on declines, because the markets have clearly run up and perhaps in anticipation of the demonetization benefiting the fiscal space and government being in a position to perhaps do something in the form of UBI or universal basic income. I think that seems to be the bet the market is taking. So I would stick to my favorites rather than try and do anything different. I also like pharma stocks, though there are some moves by the US government in the sense that there is an interesting move that if there is a direct tax differential, whatever I've understood, between if for example there is the US government feels that there are no tax on export profits and because of that on entry of a product into America there could be taxes. Now that's an interesting area which was mentioned. Subject to that, I think the pharma stocks have got beaten up quite badly, and obviously I like to stick to the leaders, Sun Pharma and Aurobindo. Those are the other stocks that I like.
Right, Harihar, what are your calls?
Well, I continue to be long on my old favorite, that is REC, Rural Electrification Corporation. I think that is going to be a big beneficiary from this budget. So I think I have a target of about 185, 190 as far as REC is concerned. The second stock, of course, is one that already I think SP has mentioned, which is State Bank of India. And I think that once the demonetization dust settles down, and once this quarter is not likely to have an ARQ, but probably I think the next couple of quarters we could see SBI probably being one PSU bank that could actually outperform the other banks in the banking space. So we have a target of about 310 on SBI. And the third one, I think, again, I'm short on ICICI Bank, because I still think there are a lot of asset quality concerns which are not manifesting itself at this point of time. And probably the next 2 quarters could show a lot more of asset quality stress. So we have a target of about 225, 230 on ICICI Bank on the downside.
Right, just like SP said that he would like to buy on declines, Harihar. REC has clearly gone up and done pretty well in the last few months. Wouldn't you also want to buy on decline, or one can go ahead and buy now as well?
See, from a very technical point of view, I would believe that probably each time you get a small decline, let's say even a 4-5% decline, you can just keep chipping away at the stock. See, I believe that if you look at the stock in terms of the post-budget potential or even the dividend yield that it offers, it seems to be in a long-term uptrend. So secular, fundamentally, we are very positive in the stock. Yes, I agree that since the markets are already run up quite a bit, you can wait for small dips. But I think don't try to wait for a very large dip. Probably a 5-10% dip should be good enough to buy the stock.
Right, Ruchit, what are your calls?
Yeah, hi, good morning, Pankaj. Well, Pankaj, overall we still believe there is good upside left in the market from current levels also. So citing that we have 3 buy calls from current levels. First is a buy call in Petronet. Probably the longer term trend for the stock still remains up. The stock has been forming high top high bottom structure since quite a few months now. Now what has happened since last 2 or 3 months, the prices have consolidated in the sideways range. So which means that we have seen a time-wise correction rather than a price correction, and in Friday's trading session again the stock has given breakout of that sideways consolidation range. So this is indicating just a resumption of the uptrend in the stock. So I think if we get minor declines today in the range of 390 to 387, one should go long in Petronet, keeping stop loss below 374 and expecting target around 415. My second pick is a buy call in Motherson Sumi. Well, after a long consolidation phase, we have seen a breakout in Friday's trading session too, and also if we compare the volumes on the breakouts, then the comparative the volumes were much higher in Friday's session. So this is also indicating that the previous all-time highs which were in the stock, which was around 355, that should be tested in about 1 or 2 weeks of time frame. So one can go long in Motherson Sumi, buy in this range of 340 to 337, keeping a stop loss below 328 for target of 355. And my third pick is a buy call in Heidelberg Cement. In fact, the entire cement sector as of now seems, a good high top, high bottom structure is getting formed. And so at least in short to medium term, I think this uptrend or up move in the cement sector should continue. Now, Heidelberg Cement, the longer term charts are quite positive. During the last week, we have seen with good volumes, the prices have again given a breakout of 200-day simple moving average and the 89 EMA, which was acting as a resistance. So we can see a good upside momentum up to 134 in Heidelberg Cement. So one can go long with stop loss below 111.
Right, a lot of stocks will also be reacting to their numbers, and the big one there would be L&T. Let's just look at the numbers. Numbers were below estimates, but one would say that the quality of numbers were pretty good. So sales went up 1.3%, 26,287 crores. Profit numbers came in at 972 crores. That's a gain of about 38%. EBITDA was 2,500 odd crores. That was in line with estimates, 2,126 crores. EBITDA margins inched up to about 9.6%. That was a 140 basis point gains, but absolutely in line. Two things when you talk about L&T, one is order inflow and one is the EBITDA number. That's the EBITDA number, 18% YOY growth. Order inflow 34,900, above estimates, but lower by about 10% on a YOY basis. Company has gone ahead and reduced its guidance. This is the segmental breakup. Infrastructure was slightly slower, but power, hydrocarbon did particularly well, and that led to the growth for L&T going ahead. Revenue growth guidance cut to 10% from 12 to 15%. That was the earlier number. Their order inflow guidance was 15%. That's now cut to 10%. But I think that the street had already factored in these numbers. I was looking at the Bloomberg consensus in terms of sales numbers, and it was expecting a growth of 10%. So it was already something which the street had factored in. In the pre-open session, the stock is up around 2.78%. There will definitely be EPS cuts, but again, as I told you, that the quality of earnings was not bad, and maybe that is something which the markets can focus on. Right now, the pre-open session very volatile. It's absolutely flat at this point of time. SV, did you look at L&T numbers? How would you read into the management commentary?
Yeah, the numbers are okay, Pankaj, but I think it's also been buoyed by other income, So unless and until there is, there is that infra spend which we have been talking about, it's almost like the tiger is coming kind of thing. Unless it gets really kicked off, and one was hoping that when the UAE Crown Prince was here for the Republic Day function, the much mentioned $75 billion odd investments in the India Infra Fund would have happened. Now, something like that would be a big booster for companies such as L&T, because that will really pump prime the infrastructure. So I would tend to be a bit cautious. I mean, quality of the management, quality of earnings, no question. It's just that there's not much action really happening as far as the infra side is concerned. And in some sense, I think that demonetization would also have a bit of a kind of a negative impact. Perhaps not too much, but a bit of a negative impact indirectly as far as companies such as L&T is concerned.
Right. Another strong set of numbers from the infrastructure space that came in was BEL. 37% growth in terms of execution, 2,086 crores. That's what they have done in terms of sales numbers. Profit numbers, 33% growth, beating street estimates. EBITDA came in at 482 crores. That was a slightly higher gain. That's operating leverage benefits. EBITDA margins came in at 22%, and order backlog was also pretty strong. Remember, Q3 and Q4 are strongest quarter for BEL. They tend to make majority of their revenues into these quarters. Board has also gone ahead and approved a split in the ratio of 10:1, so you'll get 10 shares for every 1 share held. That's the pre-open price for you, 3% higher. Hariyar, in terms of BEL, do you think again it's a stock which is slightly expensive but can go up further because of execution?
No, BEL has largely been a defense play, I think, as long as I can remember. But see, there is absolutely no doubt, Pankaj, the results are outstanding. In fact, the EBITDA was something that was much better than I think the street expectation was. But I think what the government should do now is to go ahead and have a very clear timetable for privatizing these companies. Because we have been doing bits and pieces divestment of these PSU companies, but that is not going to lead them anywhere. I think if BEL has to get a really good valuation at par with probably other defense companies, I would believe that BEL should have a clear-cut timetable for privatization, and the government should use this budget to actually go ahead on that. So I think if that happens, I would believe that Bharat Electronics could be worth a lot more than what is visible today.
Right. SV, what will be your view on ITC and the numbers that they declared?
See, ITC is another stock in terms of quality of earnings. I've always liked, and I'm not a smoker, but it's a stock that I've always liked. And see, the advantage which companies such as ITC have is, whatever one may say, they have pricing power and the ability to pass on to the end customer the prices. And the other smart thing that has happened is no other foreign player can come into India. So given that, they are in an absolutely brilliant sweet spot, so that's a big advantage that ITC has. Still, of course, the non-cigarette based diversification that they have done, they have still not really kicked in terms of free cash flows, but they have the cushion of the cigarette business to keep at it, and hopefully that will also benefit them. The only other quick thing on BL to add what Harrier said is one would also wish list would be for government to come up with a real radical privatization program for such as BL, but it would be a brave government to make such an announcement on 1st February, though the present PM has given a lot of surprises given the looming 5 elections, especially UP, Uttarakhand, Punjab, etc., which are coming up. So I would be really pleasantly surprised if government does something on those lines.
Right. Ruchit, your view first on ITC and then on L&T as well?
Well, Pankaj, ITC in last few trading sessions already the stock has given a good run up from 220 to 265, and if you observe the previous history, at least the recent history, then September 2016 was a month when it had formed its a high of around 265 and then it corrected significantly. So you have seen a good resistance is coming around 265. Definitely the trend for the stock remains positive, but fresh entry should be taken in the stock now only on dips. I think the major support for the stock would come around 245, 240 range. So I would like the stock to correct up to 240 to 245 range. The risk reward ratio to get into to enter in this stock around those levels would be very much favorable. So wait for a minor correction in the stock around 240 to 245 range, but definitely that would be a good buying opportunity if the stock prices comes over there. Larsen and Toubro, the stocks are the charts are showing very positive structure on this, because if you observe the weekly charts and the recent lows around 1300 coincided with 50% retracement of the entire previous up move from 1000 to 1600. So the short term charts of the stock is definitely positive. From the retracement support, prices have started forming this high top high bottom structure. On the higher side, as of now, from very short term perspective, I think 1570 to 1580 levels could be seen in this stock. So if anyone is already holding the stock, they should continue to hold for targets around 1570 to 1580.
Right. SV, as far as the budget is concerned, or how things go ahead into the budget, what would be some of the key things that you would eye out for? Maybe not in terms of any radical changes, but any clarifications that markets would be waiting for?
I basically, the first number would be the fiscal deficit. There is government sticking to the kind of tight fiscal path that they have been doing. They have shown the courage to do, or will there be a little bit of a dilution of the fiscal deficit that this government has been showing? My hunch is they would stick to the straight and narrow. I don't really see them, taking any call, especially given the uncertainty in the global markets with, especially with the new POTUS, the president of the US, Trump, and what are the kind of steps he would be taking. So I would be surprised if government makes too much of a veer off the fiscal roadmap that they have planned for. So that's clearly one thing. And how much of benefit is really been accrued out of the demonetization exercise? That RBI has been, obviously not having all the numbers reconciled, etc. The RBI has not been able to come out with any strong numbers apart from how much of currency they have put back into the system. So that's the only number that RBI has been periodically updating, even in their various meetings they've had with the government panels. So I think the demonetization effect, the fiscal deficit, any clues on GST rates, these are some of the things that I would closely be looking as far as this budget is concerned. And of course, UBI, is government going to bite the bullet? Is it going to be a reclassification of all the subsidies? Now, these are some of the more macro things that I would be looking at in this budget.
Harrier, just quickly before markets open, what is the clarification waiting for capital gains? Do you think that is something factored in the market?
Hard to say, but I would believe that probably one of the things is going to happen. Either your classification of equity long term becomes 3 years instead of 1 year, or you could see a slight increase in the short term capital gain. So I think that will be more to bring about a parity. I don't see any drastic change as far as capital gains are concerned.
Right, but markets are building in that there will be some changes.
Yes, I think there should be something, at least based on what Mr. Modi has been talking about in the capital market circles.
I'll just come back to you, gentlemen. First trades on your screen. ICICI Bank is up 0.4. SBI is up down about 0.7. BHEL was among the top gainers. It's down about 1 to 2 rupees. L&T is up about 1% or so. Quality of numbers were good. However, there were EPS cuts that happened. Bharti Airtel flat with a negative bias. I think L&T is the top gainer right now. 0.1. Almost close to 1% higher, 1,456. A good set of numbers, and that's what the market is factoring in. BEL is up 3.3. Again, very strong set of numbers as far as Bharat Electronics is concerned. That's up around 3.4, 3.5%, 47,000 shares traded. Geojit Financial, that's a mid-cap company, broking company, which declared numbers 7% higher, 41 rupees for Geojit, 58,000 shares traded. Gujarat Alkali, 79,000 shares traded, just opening 405, 406 for Gujarat Alkali, 1.5% higher. Tata Coffee numbers, one can say, but slightly on the weaker side or slightly on the muted side, 2.5% on the lower side for Tata Coffee. Zuari Agro, great set of numbers, 3.5% higher, but chemical, agrochemical, overall that space has been buzzing. Granules India 117, 2% higher, 80,000 shares traded for Granules India. Just Dial will be reacting to its numbers. After a long time, you've seen a decent beat, or at least an inline number coming in for Just Dial, 374 for Just Dial right now. In terms of some stocks that are reacting to news flow, so Nestle is flat with a positive bias, however just 600 shares traded. DCB Bank is flat, it's down about 0.3%, 0.13%. Maruti 5,904, 11 rupees sort of a decline, not much that one can read into this name. Prakash Industries up 1.5. I think it started to gain in the second half on Friday as well. So that's what it is now reacting to. Overall, decent set of opening as far as Nifty is concerned, absolutely flat. It's a big week because it's the budget, and you know what is the sort of events that one is looking at, and that's why it's important. Let's just pull up the stock of Idea. It's up 4.5% right now. 81 rupees. You know, increasingly talks of merger between Idea, Vodafone are increasing in the market for 4.5% higher for that name right now. BEL is up 3%. We told you. Just Dial is up close to 3%. All these names are doing well. Sugar stocks have started to go up. So Ugar Sugars is up 2%. Trident Limited is not a sugar company, but it's doing well. It's up around 1% or so. Dalmia Bharat Sugar is up close to 2%. So that's another sugar company which is doing particularly well. In terms of some losers and some volume-wise losers, Global Spirit is down 3%, but again, volumes are not very high. Infibeam's volumes is not high, however, price action is on the higher side. So these are probably the only two names that I can pick up on slightly lower, slightly downside, but however, volumes are not that great. Ruchit, what will be your view on Idea?
Well, Pankaj, if you see the charts, then probably the momentum is on the positive side, at least the short-term momentum. Well, after the month of May 2016, the entire lower top, low bottom formation which was there has now turned into a sideways consolidation phase. And the RSI, if you observe the RSI, and then post May 2016, it is for the first time when the RSI has crossed 60 levels. So that is a sign that for at least in the near term, the momentum is definitely going to remain on the positive side. It's very early to say that there is a change of trend in the entire price structure because you know, after the sideways consolidation phase, only when the high top, high bottom structure would start getting formed, then only it would be confirmed. But yes, at least for short term, we can expect on the higher side the stock could test levels around 86, 87 levels. So I think it's not a start of an uptrend, or it's very early to say whether it's a change of trend. But from very short term perspective, the momentum could be on the positive side up to 87 rupees.
Right. As we say, if Idea and Vodafone were to merge, do you think it will be positive for the sector?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because consolidation is always helpful for the sector, and given that Reliance Jio has really shaken up the market, while the present scheme is on till 31st March, you know, they have given enough hints that you know, the solid cash flow that they have from their core business, they can afford to continue this for some more time. So, given the Jio impact, I think it will be good for overall good for the, as far as the telecom operators are concerned.
Right. Hariyar, what will be your view? Say if Idea and Vodafone were to merge, what can happen?
See, prima facie, I find it quite difficult to, kind of envisage a merger between these two large companies, because I always believe that as far as, telecom is concerned, both Idea and Vodafone standalone are fairly large enough. So I'm not very sure what could be the big benefit that they would get by merging with each other, other than creating a company that is as bulky as Jio. So I think that I have my own doubts whether it is practically feasible and in the interests of both the companies. I'm not even sure whether both the companies are in any advanced stages of talks, because the stock's been going up purely on rumors. I agree, broadly consolidation could be good in terms of costs and other things, but then, each company has about $5 billion of payouts in terms of the spectrum is concerned. So if you merge them, you have about 10 billion of payout. So I'm not sure whether a company with 10 billion payouts would really be worth investing in. So, from an investment point of view, I don't know whether if the company merges, I would be keen on buying the merged entity. But yes, you can never rule it out. But at this point of time, I'm not sure whether the rise in the price of Idea is really justified or purely on the basis of rumors.
Right. As far as Larsen is concerned, it's going up today. There have been EPS cuts. What do you think, Harrier? Larsen, why is it going up? Do you think the worst is factored in?
See, Pankaj, I was going through the results of Larsen, and actually 2-3 things struck me, One is, if you look at the order book position, it's about 2.5 times their sales. I think that's a fairly strong number, and it's also indicative of a turnaround as far as capital spending is concerned. So that, I think, is a positive. The second is that if you look at the breakup of the revenues of L&T, roughly 80% still comes from domestic, only 20% from abroad. So the kind of worry that people have that what happens to global business, what happens if Trump says this and that, I think those worries don't really afflict L&T so much. So, if you're looking at a revival in domestic consumption or a pure domestic play, I think L&T is now beginning to emerge as a very, very strong and veritable play on India's revival. And I think that is probably playing on the price of Larsen & Toubro.
Right. SP, do you have anything to add?
No, on the Idea, the only thing I said is, there is this, market sort of thumb rule which says sell on rumor and buy on facts. So I think as far as Idea is concerned, that's why I consciously use the word telecom operator is concerned. As far as the shareholder is concerned, to kind of endorse what Harrier mentioned, it perhaps makes sense. And also earlier what Ruchit mentioned, it perhaps makes sense to sell on rumors, is what I had to say. As far as L&T is concerned, I stick to what I mentioned earlier. I'm not so much worried about their non-India business. It is just that, the India infra space is still not showing the kind of buoyancy that one has been expecting ever since this government came to power. So that is the main concern. Once that kickoff happens, then L&T and some of the other companies which are in the infra space would really benefit.
Right. BEL is up around 4% right now. We've already taken our views from our guest. However, Ruchit has not given us any levels for BEL. Ruchit, Bharat Electronics, any levels to watch out for?
Well, Pankaj, the high top, high bottom structure is there in the stock, and if you observe, the structure, then definitely the next target would be taken out only by reciprocal retracement, since we don't have any previous resistances. Now, as per the reciprocal retracement, 1645 is where the next resistance for the stock is coming around, which is 161.8% retracement of the previous corrective move, which was there from 1520 to 1325. So, not a best point to get into the stock at current levels, but I think around 1645. I think some sort of profit booking should be done if the stock, if anyone is bought it from very short-term trading perspective.
Right. Ruchit, any levels on Just Dial? It's up 5% now.
Well, Just Dial, I think 405 to 410 would act as a good resistance for the stock if we see on the closing basis. Just because if we historically see the stock, when the entire corrective move has taken place, the 89 EMA on the daily charts has acted as a stiff resistance. Well, Pankaj, after this huge correction in last few months now, I think this stock going ahead now see a longer period of consolidation phase. So we are not expecting any significant upside to coming in the stock, but at least one can say that the downside would be very limited, or the near term, at least short term bottom has been formed in the stock. So one can expect a consolidation phase to coming in the stock, wherein we can say that for next few months the prices would consolidate in the range of 400, 410 on the higher side and 340, 330 on the lower side.
Right. Harrier, any view on Just Dial numbers after really long were in line?
No, see, I frankly found this stock quite disappointing, and I remember tracking this stock when it was quoting about 1,500. And we've always believed that this really doesn't have a great business model that probably cannot be replicated by someone like Google in a matter of few days, So I don't see what is the big advantage that Just Dial has, and what is the competitive advantage they have once, let's say, someone like Google comes and says that I will create a massive database of all Indian companies in a matter of few days. So I don't see the big, edge that the Just Dial has. To me, I think predicting earnings for a company like this, which is so volatile, it's going to be extremely difficult. So honestly, I have always kept off this stock. I never understood this stock much, and I've typically avoided the stock in the past.
Right. So you've not looked at the numbers?
No, I haven't.
Right. SV, in terms of some of the other names, oil marketing companies, they've done very well, but going into the budget, they always become volatile. Do you think this time around most of the changes have happened and expectations are very low, so they may not be volatile after the budget?
Yeah, I generally would think so. I mean, even a stock like ITC, which I didn't mention in the past, typically ITC has been a milching cow in every budget. Given that GST is around the corner, I think this may be perhaps one of the very, very rare times when ITC or for that matter even the oil marketing companies would be spec. So and the fact that they are increasing LPG price by creeping increase in price, slow but steady, I think 1-2 rupees virtually every month or thereabouts. Therefore, I would not be too much worried about any deleterious impact of the budget as far as these companies are concerned.
Oil marketing companies, overall you mentioned them as one of your top picks. Don't you think that most of the good news is already factored in the market?
See, in a way what you're saying is right, but the clear signal that all these guys are showing, and it obviously means that the government, they have the government's blessing, because government is the major shareholder or the major owner, is that they're going downstream now. They are all looking at petrochemical complexes. Now Bharat Petroleum has already done it in Kochi, IOC is doing it in Paradeep, HPCL with GAIL is putting up a large facility in Andhra. So the downstream and the fact that there would be more of an integrated business model is something what we need to look for as far as these oil marketing companies are concerned in the future. That's why BPCL always attracts a slightly a premium valuation as compared to some of the other peers from the oil PSUs. So my take is more on the fact that they are going downstream and becoming more of an integrated shop rather than just being a refinery shop.
Right. Hariyar, Bajaj Finance will declare numbers today. You may not have a view on Bajaj Finance, but it is important for NBFC sector and how Bajaj Finance delivers numbers because it's a sector leading valuation company.
No, in fact, that's a company I have been tracking quite closely, and what we believe is that Bajaj Finance is not a company that has been so negatively hit by the demonetization move. In fact, demonetization has been especially harsh on the MFI companies, not so much on Bajaj, which is more of a consumer finance company. So Bajaj Finance, whatever we understand, is unlikely to be impacted. In fact, we expect that the growth that they've shown in the last few quarters should actually continue in this quarter also. We are worried about the MFI company. I think they could see a much bigger hit in this quarter, but Bajaj Finance, we would believe, should largely be immune to that kind of a risk.
But most of the MFI companies have already declared numbers. Don't you think that the impact was lower than expected, or you're saying this quarter means Q4?
Obviously, see, what happens is a lot of the business, the MFIs tend to get lagged by a couple of months. So the impact of November, December and January could actually show up in the last quarter. So I think we should actually see the fourth quarter where we'd get a clearer picture of how the MFIs have performed.
Right, and you expect derating into MFIs?
Not substantial, but I think definitely the pressure would have shown, because what we understand is that in terms of offtake, in terms of their ability to take money from the banks and on-lend it to the final customer, I think that has been affected as far as the MFIs are concerned. So that could be a worry. But frankly, even in case of MFIs, I don't think that the impact has been very, very substantial to really impact their bottom lines in a big way.
Right. SV, in terms of idea, we spoke about the merger. Bharti also in the last few days has gone up. Say if consolidation happens, Bharti would be one of the biggest beneficiaries?
No, definitely. I mean, they are the leader in the pack. And then what happens is that, the leader always benefits from when something like this happens. Of course, there's a lot of speculation and rumors in the market that Vodafone plus Idea would be bigger than Bharti. But clearly, Bharti will definitely benefit, and I suspect that in terms of sentiment also, I think Bharti has at long last getting some benefit in the markets.
Right. As we are speaking, Idea is up 6.5 to 8% right now. So it's clearly factoring in that. SV, how important will it be for Aditya Birla Nuvo? Because I think that was one of the key concerns after the proposed deal.
See, one thing you have to give credit to Mr. Birla is that, he takes, real solid calls. I mean, he doesn't shy away from taking calls, whether it has been a novelist or exiting MRPL. He's got, a real courage to take these calls. So, therefore, from that perspective, obviously, if something like this were to happen, and I mean, I'm second guessing, assuming Vodafone continues to be the one that's running the business and Idea kind of hands over or something like that, then it would be an investment in some sense by the Birla Group into a larger entity. So given all that, and that's why this stock is also seeing some flow. But again, I think we are second guessing too much, and if there is any news credence to it, and typically what one has seen, Pankaj, is whenever there's so much of rumors floating in the market, so much of headline news in the pink papers, I think there is no smoke without some fire. So I would be watching this space fairly closely.
Right, Hariyar, just again your call on Bharti as well. Say if the merger would happen, we spoke about Idea into detail earlier.
See, not much may really change, because I am not really looking at Bharti from the India business point of view. I think even assuming hypothetically that Vodafone and Idea merge, I'm not sure how much difference it would make to the economics of Bharti or the economics of the Vodafone Idea entity. I think what is more important in case of Bharti is, number one, how the African business is shaping up. And what we understand is that in the last quarter or so, the African business is showing some green shoots of recovery. So that is probably a big positive as far as Bharti is concerned. The second, of course, would be the tower business. I think that is not yet factored in fully into the valuation of Bharti. But if that gets factored in, I think Bharti should probably be worth a lot more than what we are seeing today. So yes, if I were to take a call, I would probably prefer a Bharti over any other telecom company in India.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Ruchit, let's start with you. Disclosures.
I don't personally hold any of the stocks that we have recommended, but all the three recommendations that we have given today have already been given to our clients also.
SP for you.
SBI, HPCL and Sun Pharma.
What is the disclosure?
I have small holdings in each of these.
Right. Hariyar, disclosures for you as well?
Yeah, same. I think REC is the stock that I hold, but other stocks I think you can assume that you have given to our clients.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out time for us. Always a pleasure talking to you. On that note, we are taking a break, our first after opening, but don't go anywhere. Lots more lined up on the other side of this break.